former Chief Justice Torkornoo is urging the ECOWAS court to rule in her favor, arguing that the Attorney General failed to respond to her case within the required time frame. Meanwhile, former UN Senior Governance Advisor Professor Balfour Ajimendua is calling on the Constitutional Review Committee to revise the procedure for removing a Chief Justice. Speaking on the AM show, he warned that the current process exposes the judiciary to partisan interference and undermines the constitutional balance of power.
The system of selecting or appointing our president must be reviewed. It should be taken away from the executive. The president should not be appointing chief justices, especially if we are arguing on the basis of the balance of power. And my fear in this country is that we are not careful. And by the way, yesterday also, I heard some MPP stalwarts also saying, look, when we come to power, the chief justice will be sacked. Look at this. And look, we got to be serious with ourselves. You see, that's really, I'm concerned about this. So we can decide, especially since we have already ongoing process to review the Constitution, we must think seriously about reviewing this aspect to take away from the executive the appointing of chief justices. And if we want a good example, go to Kenya, not Europe or America. Go to Kenya and see how they elect or select their chief justices. They have insulated the whole process away from the executive, precisely because of the issues I'm raising and the challenges that we are facing. Okay. We don't want that. Misbehavior, anything can be, because if it's a matter of expenditure, overspending, or misappropriating, whatever the term is, if the Auditor General was to go into the executive's expenditures, they will see perhaps bigger ones. That's the reality. Bigger ones. And I'm very happy what President Mohammed has just done. You know, towards the UN General Assembly, he's made a statement that nobody should be going without approval. You know why? Because the practice has been at the executive level, sending hundreds of people to the UN during this General Assembly opinion, doing practically nothing. It's an opportunity for the civil servants to make extra money because they give them big per diems.
You know, the acting deputy CEO of the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, Abdul Aziz Mohammed, has defended the removal of the Chief Justice, stressing that the decision followed constitutional provision and due process. Speaking on Prime Morning on Newsflash, he explained that the government's priority was to ensure that the constitutional process was followed.
Wasn't surprised about the removal of the Chief Justice former, because the facts right from the onset were very clear. But as a government, what we're committed to was the due process, was to ensure that we carry the process through the constitutional provisions. And so for us, we were not too surprised looking at the facts of the case. And our colleagues on the other side have cried foul a couple of times, and yet have been unable to point to a clear breach of procedure. And so we are not surprised about it. Even under President Akufo-Addo again, I mean, just last year or so, some petitions were brought against the same CJ. And so, I mean, there's nothing new about it. It's just a matter of going through the constitutional due process. That is very, very important. In fact, the Constitution contemplated and made provision for the removal of the Chief Justice. If that was wrong, if that is an area that the Constitution didn't want us to even contemplate about, the Constitution would not have provided for it. The Constitution would provide for what it contemplates. And so, to me, the most important thing is whether we followed the due process.